JAMESCSCOTTSR. The school was built in 41 or 42. I started out the first year it was as a new school. Professor Kizer was the principal. Mrs. Sherrill was a teacher, and Mrs. Brown was a teacher. No, he was a teacher. He taught. He was also the basketball coach. And to my knowledge, if it hadn't been for Professor Kizer, we would not have had this building. Because I think during that era, Mr. Marston was the superintendent of the school. And I think, of course, Professor Kizer helped build the school because he was a brick mason, he was a mechanic, he was an electrician. Professor Kizer was a smart man. So somehow he was the instigator in getting this one here. My earliest memory of school was the older boys put me in a wheelbarrow, dumping me over the bank. There was still some, work going on here, so they put me in a wheelbarrow. That bank right after they did. There was no such thing as school day, snow days during my era. The only kids that didn't make it to school here was the ones that lived in Telford, Washington College, and Limestone, because they rode the bus from there to here. But the ones that lived in Jonesborough, we walked to school. The only time I ever ridden the bus to school was from here to Langston, because the bus would pick us up here and take us to Langston. That's the only time we were bused. If it snowed that bad, then when Mrs. Sherrill, which was the principal after Professor Kizer, left here and went to Keenesport, to Douglas, she became principal. And if she couldn't get from Johnson City to here, Miss Hattie Walker, which lived in the big two-story house right down here on Spring, would come up and teach. Miss Brown would either get a cab or she would walk to school, which she lived on 4th Avenue. I lived here on Spring, about, I guess, 3 blocks from here or 4. But it has been times when snow was so deep, my father would walk in front of us to make a path for us to come to. Proud to be here in Jonesborough, because the people as a whole during my era, people didn't see you as an outsider or whatever. We was all family. Well, when I started out, Mrs. Brown was my first grade teacher, and Mrs. Sherrill was 3rd and 4th and 5th, and Professor Kizer was 6th, 7th, and 8th. To my knowledge, that was 3 classes in one room. I went home last time. So it was right here. They did the kitchen, and of course now we didn't have any inside bathrooms. The girls' bathroom was down here next to the fence, and the boys was out there next where that house is. When we would go out, we'd play like Ring Around the Roses. If Mrs. Sherrill would not be able to come to teach, and she would let her daughter come. We would like to play in the well. Yeah, oh, that was a good game. It went like, I'm in the well, and the question would be asked, how many feet? You say 5, 10, or whatever. And you say, well, what does it take to get you out? You say a kiss. Then you name the girl that you want to kiss from. So it would be the teacher. But later on, see, as Professor Kizer left here, our basketball vanished. Basketball didn't come back to this school until Professor Stewart became principal. So he brought basketball back. He had a wonderful basketball team. He brought softball. And the sad part about it, even though we were a county school of Jonesborough, which was just right over the hill, but we never played them in basketball. Never played them in softball. Professor Kizer, and I can't think of the principal's name, that was down in the school down there. That was the first white school that we ever played. And that's down in the country. You would think, it wouldn't. But they would come here, we'd play softball right down there. We'd play basketball here. We'd go over to school and play down there. No problem, no trouble whatsoever. So he opened up the gate as far as integrating the schools. Then, of course, as an elementary school, the ball teams that we played would be like Langston, which was a high school, Douglas Keensport, it's a school out of Newport. The first time I remember playing Newport, we didn't have a girls team at that time, and had the junior boys. Newport had the girls and the boys. So they came here to play. So the boys had to play the girls. Then after Professor Stewart left, basketball died again. I think Professor Stewart's cousin came to teach here, and he brought it back up. Then when he left, they didn't have a basketball until Professor McKinney, and then I coached the team here then when Professor McKinney was principal. And of course I played county school, Lamar, and schools like that. I love to draw, I love to make things. As a matter of fact, I made a duplicate out of cardboard of this school when I was in school. I took cardboard boxes, cut them up, and made the T, and put, at that time, you get peanuts in a plastic. I'd take it and make the windows. Art was one of my, I loved art. I love to make things. And I still like to build things, but, oh yes, we did chores. Cause we were our own janitor. We policed the ground. We did our own sweeping, own mopping. Every Friday we would oil the floors, the classrooms, and the hall. I helped my mother because there was 6 of us boys. Now, do I look like the type of person who got in trouble? With Mrs. Sherrill, you had to have known her. Super nice lady, a wonderful teacher. You know what the back looks like in a wooden back chair? Yeah, it's around there. She had one of those as a paddle. It's got that courage, isn't it? And she was a smart lady, but a dressy lady. She always wore a suit, dress suit. And she wore glasses, of course. Now, if you didn't do anything real bad, she would keep her jacket on and probably give you a couple of, but that was the worst. The worst part was at the end of school, she would write a note and give it to you to take home to give to your parents. That's where I come in. And I've taken a few notes home, but anyway. But now when she really was going to get down to business, she would take her jacket off, hang it on the back of a chair, take you in the office, have you to get on and touch the desk like this. And that's when she would really work on you. Then she'd also write a note and give it to you. You'd take it home. Now, I don't know what happened at other people's houses, but if we took a note home where we misbehaved at school, then we got one at home. See, that was my father, because he said, I don't send you to school to do this, I send you to school to learn. If I had it to do over again, I probably wouldn't get, well, I didn't get that many whoopings from school, but I did from my father, and of course that's a different story. I wouldn't change my life too much. My mother was I guess you call a worker of a house, worked in a house. My father, he worked at different companies, like he worked at Summers Hardware. Then of course, on the weekends, he would work at Colonel Surgeries. Then of course my father later on went to work at Eastman and worked out and retired from Eastman. My mother worked mostly for the Rawsons and Shipleys. When I was 17, I bought the piece of property where I'm at now. I paid $5 a week for it. My wife was a grade ahead of me, behind me anyway, ahead of me. We elected to get married when she graduated. After graduation, we married. I think I went to work at this SO station, which was Foster's SO. She went to work, she went out to university. And during my time at the SO, I guess I was there maybe a year. I started building my house. So Jerome Fitzgerald's father worked at the hospital, and he came by one day and asked me, said, how would you like to work at the hospital? So I told him, yeah, I would. He said, well, I can get you a job there. So he did. And I went to work there. I started working in surgery as an orderly in surgery. And I got to reading books and just different things, watching the doctors and the nurses. And I got to where that at the point of going to Nashville to get my license for OR technician. And so I became an OR technician. I did that for 10 years. So I kind of, in a way, educated myself to a certain degree on a lot of things, because I feel like that I can do anything I want to do or be anything I want to be if I want to, but you have to want to. Then I bought this milk truck, a milk route, and I kept it for 3 years and sold it. Then went to work in construction as a helper. I got with the carpenters. I was with him 6 months, and he gave me a blueprint and said, go build it. So I went and built my first house for him. It was Eddie Deboer's house in Town Acres. And from there I just went on up the hill. So I stayed in construction. Our furnace went out. The county did not replace it. Then that's how come they got the flues. We had stoves. When they bring a coal in, they wouldn't put it in the basement. We would have to put it in. The kids would have to put the coal from outside into a hole. So the county per se did not do us justice, but we still made it on top. But like I said, Jonesborough was a good place to be and to be from. Back then, people didn't look at each other as different people. Everybody was like a family. Of course, you had those few, but but for the most part, everybody was family. Believe it or not, at 8-year-old or 9, I would take Mr. Jackson's bank book and money to bank and trust. Don't know how much money, didn't care how much money. My thing was to make sure I got it from bar to bar. I would come out that door at the store, almost in a run. I'd run all the way to the bank, up the steps, and I forget the lady's name that I always went to. I laid the bank book and thing up on the, she would count it, she'd put it back in the bag. I'd come back out of the bank, I'd run all the way back to even my father could have been coming up the road and wanted to stop me. I wouldn't have stopped. Now I'd have waited on him when I got to the store, but I wouldn't have stopped because I was, and that was a thing that my mother always said, a good name is better chosen than money. I'm glad that I was born and raised here in Jonesborough around the people that I grew up around, because they helped shape me with my parents' help. They helped my parents mold me into the person that I am.